Anthony Joshua has vowed to be more switched on and more lively in the lead up to, and I guess during, the Andy Ruiz rematch. Now, I've long said that it's important for a fighter not to start behaving out of character, okay, unless their character has been conducive to them constantly losing or failing on the big stage. An example of that would be Buster Douglas, because Buster Douglas, although he was to some degree talented, he never quite had the confidence or the killer instinct to succeed at the very highest level. That was until he fought Mike Tyson in February of 1990. In that fight, following the very, very recent death of his mum, who he was extremely close to, Buster Douglas acted out of character. He was far more assertive, aggressive, and assured than we'd ever seen him before at the highest level. And he pulled off the biggest upset in boxing history that night. But when you're talking about the majority of top-level fighters like AJ, when they're acting out of character, that is usually the sign that something's wrong. That's usually the sign that they're not where they need to be mentally. And sometimes they might feel like they have to act out of character for whatever reason. AJ claims that he was too relaxed going into the Andy Ruiz fight, which is completely at odds with what most of us observed when he was walking to the ring. Because far from being too relaxed, he seemed extremely nervous. And everybody just about mentioned it before the first bell. There were people tweeting, there were people in my Facebook boxing group, and everybody was saying AJ looks extremely nervous. And we're people who have seen AJ fight his whole career. From day dot, in fact, there are, some of us who are watching AJ even before he turned pro, even before the Olympics. And I've never seen AJ look so nervous as he looked before the opening bell of the Ruiz fight. Very strange, but yet he's coming out saying that he was too relaxed. I don't know what's going on there. He says he needs to be more lively for the Ruiz fight. I don't think, as an outsider looking in, I don't think he needs to be more lively. I think he needs to be more relaxed. Which is going to be difficult considering the fact that Ruiz splattered him all over the canvas first time around. When you're going in there with a guy who's going to come forward at you, put you under pressure, and he's got the power to hurt you and drop you, and he dropped you 4 times previously, it's hard to stay relaxed under those circumstances. So we'll see whether AJ can keep his nerve. Now, what I would agree with is that AJ maybe went a little bit Hollywood in his mentality. Not only just for the Ruiz fight, but for several years now. I think fame might have softened AJ a bit. And he does need to get back to the old spitting sawdust, hardcore mentality that he had on the way up. I've mentioned it many times before, but like when he fought Dylan White, that kind of arrogant, vicious attitude is what he needs going into this rematch, because he's up against it now. So he needs to get that back, yes, but that's not acting out of character. That's within AJ's character. I think his character has, changed a little bit the more success he's had. He's talked about distractions outside the ring, family issues and whatever. Hopefully he's got those sorted. But what you don't want to see from AJ is him trying to reinvent the wheel. And I'm talking about in terms of his own mentality. You don't want to see him try to reinvent the wheel. You don't want to see AJ come out too fired up. Because here's a guy who's struggled when it comes to stamina. And I've never been convinced by AJ's stamina. You go back and look at my videos. Even after the Joseph Parker fight, what was I saying? I was like, yeah, he went 12 rounds, but it was at such a slow pace. Anybody could have gone 12 rounds at that pace. So I've never been fully convinced by AJ's stamina, And if you go into a fight angry or too hyped, etc., well, that's going to hurt your stamina. In order for your stamina to be as good as it can possibly be, you need to be relaxed. That's what you need to be. taking off the muscle, I think, was a good move by AJ. I think that will help him with regards to stamina, speed, mobility, etc. It's a good move. And sometimes when you're skinnier, right, sometimes when you're lighter, it can change your mentality. It can change your brain chemistry. And you can feel more mean when you're lighter. Any fighters out there who have had to make weight, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. But when you actually have to starve yourself and get your weight down, and you're not, big, bulky, or muscly, but you're more lean, you feel more mean, And AJ, I think, is going to need that too. He's going to need to feel more mean and be more mean in the fight. But he don't need to be angry. You don't need to be going in there trying to hype himself up. I think that'll be to his detriment. He needs to be calm. He needs to be mean, but in a cold, calculated kind of way. Vicious in a cold, calculated way, not in a hot-headed, hyper kind of way. No, that's not going to help him. That's going to be to his detriment. Cold and calculated and spiteful is what he needs. Vladimir Klitschko style. When Klitschko was at his best, he wasn't a hot-headed fighter. He was cold and he was calculated and he was vicious. Don't get it twisted. Vladimir Klitschko was a vicious fighter. I often criticized him, and I was one of his biggest critics for the jab, grab routine and leaning all over opponents to the point where it was not only excessive, but blatantly illegal. But Klitschko was a ruthless guy. Klitschko liked knocking people out. He liked hurting opponents. Don't let his PC persona fool you. Vladimir Klitschko is vicious. AJ needs that same kind of cold, calculated viciousness, not the incessant holding and all that kind of business, but the cold, calculated viciousness is what he needs. I didn't really see it in the Parker fight, to be honest. I saw a calculated approach in the Parker fight, but I didn't see the viciousness. You need to add some spitefulness to the cold and calculated viciousness to be most effective with that particular style. Maybe we'll see it here now that his back's up against the wall. As I've said previously, the fact that AJ has lost in the past in the amateurs and been stopped and come back from that and had success in a relatively short space of time, that should stand him in good stead. To be fair, on those occasions, he didn't have all the pressure that he's got on him here. So it's one thing being able to do that in the past to the amateurs when not many people were watching. But when the whole world is watching, and it's a very, relatively quick turnaround, just whatever it is, 5 or 6 months from the first fight to the rematch, it's going to be hard to hold his nerve. We'll see if he can do it. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out.